So we're making sure that this is a lasting resource for us into the future and for future cohorts to learn from what we discussed today, because every discussion is unique and different topics get raised that'll have resonance into the future. So thanks again, and thank you, panelists, for joining us, because you're the experts. You're very knowledgeable on this topic. You're, not necessarily, I can see lots of smiles, not necessarily, specialists in, let's say, water treatment or something, but you have great insight that we're all very keen to hear about with respect to trade, exporting, reputation building, how to get out from the environment where we work. And our topic today, it's exporting Canadian water technology to global markets. So we're fortunate to have three panelists, as Nina has said. And to begin, I'd like to take a few minutes to let our speakers each introduce themselves and their organization. So starting with, only because it's the view that I have here, if you don't mind, Lauren, Michelle, and Tharea, we'll go in that order. And Lauren, if you could please kick us off and take a minute or two or three to describe your organization and your role.
Great. Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here with everyone today. My name is Lauren Hurst, and I'm a trade commissioner at the Trade Commissioner Service, called it the TCS, which is part of Global Affairs Canada, as Nina and Evan mentioned, just combining your names there. We're a free federal service, which is always very exciting, especially to startups, and we help Canadian companies to access international markets. Promoting Canadian clean technology is a key TCS priority, and we do that by leveraging our network of trade commissioners in over 160 cities worldwide. And a part of that network is our regional offices. So we have 6 offices across Canada. And I'm at the Pacific Regional Office here in Vancouver, and I cover BC and Yukon-based companies in the clean tech sector, including water and wastewater and a few other subsectors. And my job is really to get to know you, figure out what your needs are, and then to connect you with resources and opportunities abroad. And I have counterparts across the country. And so if you're not based in BC or Yukon, I'd be happy to chat with you or connect with you after this call to make sure that you're connected with the right person. I've had the pleasure of getting to know a few of you briefly, meeting a few of you at WaterTech, for example, or visiting your pilot facilities. So it's really nice to see you in this different context as well. And yeah, our main way of helping Canadian companies to sell your products and services outside of Canada is through our export advisory services. We have a few funding pots and some accelerator programs and tailored supports at trade events such as WaterTech that I just mentioned. So I'm looking forward to your questions and to sharing what I can to help you on your journey. Thank you.
Thanks, Lauren. And you know what? I'm just sitting here smiling because, just in your sort of minute and a half there, you touched on so many topics that everyone would love to dig into. You said the magic word pilots, you said magic words like funding and export. You just touched on, it's very exciting, really encouraging. So thank you for the introduction and lots to explore. Michelle, if you don't mind, I'll go to you next.
Hi, everyone. It's great to be here today. My name is Michelle Samuels. I am the Client Solutions Manager for Xylem View in Canada. I'll give you a little background on myself. I'm trained as a chemical engineer. I've got a master's in engineering and in business. I've worked in consulting, mostly in the municipal water and wastewater field for the last 25 years. And I've done consulting. I've worked with the large area municipality here in the GTA. I'm located here in Ontario towards the north end of the Greater Toronto area. So I've worked with consulting, local on the public sector side, and now back in industry, working with Xylem. Xylem's a global leader in water solutions. It's a Fortune 500 company. And as a company, we span the entire ecosystem of water. So sensing it, moving it, measuring it, treating it, whatever it is that we have to do analyzing the data associated with it. Xylem has some aspect of that. We work in the municipal sector as well as in the industrial sector, oil and gas and mining, and other areas. So colleagues all over the globe, it is a global company. And our slogan is "Let's Solve Water," which by and large is our way of being able to recognize that we have a unique opportunity to solve water challenges and build a more water secure world. And I am proud to say that that doesn't come just as a matter of profitability, but we also have a very strong social responsibility sector within Xylem. That's their job. Their job is to find these problems, send those problems out to the rest of Xylem and help to resolve them. And we do that by requiring voluntary hours from every single staff member, top to bottom, and by building these types of groups within the organization that actually get things done. One of those groups is the Xylem Innovation Labs. I'm not sure if anyone is familiar with that, but it's our corporate innovation and venture team. And what they do is partner with and invest in cutting edge startups to accelerate their development and commercialization of new water technologies through our own incubator and accelerator program. We tend to focus on technologies or solutions that have been identified by our clients, but we have a gap in our own products and services that we cannot accomplish it on our own, or it is complementary to something that we have, but we still don't have the capability. We have partnered with Foresight, recognizing the work that they're doing in the field. But by and large, like I said, Xylem's a global company with a lot of stuff happening in the US. And so some of these tentacles reach out to be able to ensure that we are accessing as much of the talent and capabilities and resources as possible. So we want to build up an ecosystem where innovation is strong, and particularly in the Canadian mining sector and mining innovation. This has been a very attractive area to the Xylem Innovation Labs. We've got similar approaches, of course, in India and Singapore, where there are entrepreneurs creating strong solutions there as well. So I'm excited to be here today, help answer questions on some of the more practical parts of what we're dealing with through Xylem Innovation and through the work that I do. And quickly, Xylem View is the data platform that we use for analyzing. I know it's hard. It's the platform that we use for helping utilities. I work mostly in the utility, municipal utility, water and wastewater area, but it's for helping utilities integrate all of their data across their organizations, break down the silos, democratize the data, and help them to use that information to make efficient and effective decisions right across the organization. Hopefully.
Thank you, Michelle.
Yeah.
This is, again, like we're all thrilled. I'm certainly thrilled to hear and have you on this call, because Xylem, it's, as you alluded to, it's so motivating because of the range and the reach that your organization represents as an individual company, but with so many different offices, different areas of expertise, different areas of enthusiasm. And as you touched on, what I think Xylem has always been, motivating for me, or from my perspective, and certainly Foresight's perspective, is that aspect you touched on. We often get bogged down and focused on the technical details of technology development and new things, but the core of it is livability. The social purpose behind it all is water is critical for livable environments and for growth of a community. And your company has always had that as a key message and a key focus. So everybody here really respects that, and we've really been looking forward to learning more about your company. So thank you.
Right.
Thoraya, if you wouldn't mind, I'd love to hear more, and everyone would like to hear more about EDC, I'm certain.
Thank you, Evan. Yeah, hi everyone. Nice to meet you all. So I'm Thoraya Naeem, and I work with Export Development Canada. And EDC is Canada's export credit agency. And so our mandate is really to help Canadian companies succeed internationally So we do this by providing financial solutions, market intelligence, and we have a connections program. So we're headquartered in Ottawa, but we have offices throughout Canada and globally as well. We're really expanding in the Indo-Pacific, so opening new offices there as well as in Europe. And so my role is really in the clean tech team, but I support the business connections program. So in this program, we work directly with international buyers that EDC has a financial relationship with. And so we leverage that financial relationship to learn about, their needs, the projects they have going on, and introducing Canadian companies into their supply chain that way. And so we really focus on several sectors, including mining, forestry, infrastructure, which includes water utilities, agri-food, and advanced manufacturing. And it's a free service. So we really support medium segments companies or smaller companies that are in the clean tech space. And one of the areas that we consistently, get requests for across regions, across industries, right, is relating to water. So whether it's water management, reuse, the treatment of water, the monitoring of water, so that's a very an area we get a lot of requests from our buyers. So I'm really happy to be here today and to connect with you all.
Jeez, great. I hope that AI is listening to this as we record, because again, your magic word is buyers. I mean, geez, everybody here just loves that word. So it's really, we're thrilled to have you here. And I have a lot of questions about EDC and specifically how it works and how people engage with it. So thank you for making time. Lauren, I'm going to put you on the hot seat to start. I think, you might have expected that. I'm not sure, but, we all understand being on this call that, water is deeply significant. It's a global concern. We all know. And I wondered, from a TCS perspective, how significant, I mean, you personally don't only cover water related topics, do you? I mean, you have a whole range. TCS has it's all trade and export related interests. How significant is demand for support or matchmaking in the water space for this office, do you think? I know you just came down from WEF maybe, but how do you experience water related demand?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I cover water, wastewater, carbon capture and utilization, and circular economy. And that's just half of our clean tech team. But I really find, I don't know if it's because I've made 2025 my year of water, but water is definitely, it is the driver of a lot of my work. There is a lot of opportunity. I'm seeing, I'm connected with our colleagues, as I mentioned, all around the world. And part of how we work is that they get to know their market, their local market inside and out. And they find, similar to what Thoraya was saying, potential buyers who have needs that Canadian companies can meet. And so they're sending me, okay, I met with so-and-so in Costa Rica and they need, they're looking for support with X, Y, and Z in their market chain. And a lot of these leads, as we call them, business leads, are water-based. And so it's been really fulfilling for me to kind of have that WaterTech experience recently, but also just to get to know the BC and Canadian companies, that we have such leadership in the water sector. Canada, we can cover the most challenging water needs, from northern to industrial, mining, natural resources, dense urban populations. We can cover the spectrum of that. And so Canadian water capabilities are really respected worldwide. And our trade commissioners around the world are working to unearth those opportunities for you and to, and to just help leverage the awesomeness that Canadian water sector is, and bring it to the world.
I love that. And, I'm hoping we're going to discuss, as the conversation goes, a little bit of what, your impression of the Canadian water reputation is, so that people can sort of adopt and adapt some of the messaging that maybe Canada broadly is promoting. And we're hoping, to echo some of that as our companies reach out. So we'll dig into that. Thanks. And Thurea, you have touched on much of what Lauren discussed as well. I mean, does EDC field, do you feel that water technology and water related pressure, do you
Yeah,
feel it coming in? Like, are there
for
specific
sure.
demands? Yeah.
For sure. We do get a lot of requests around water, and obviously depending on kind of the region, the request varies, right? So for example, in Mexico, there's increasing water regulations, right, that are
Mm.
coming on board, and that's driving a lot of the demand that we're seeing. So our industrial clients, we had Alpec, who is a petrochemical company, come up last month from Mexico, and one of their asks was, we're looking for companies that can help us with water treatment, wastewater treatment, because, and that demand was driven because of regulations that are coming, and they're trying to prepare for that. And so we do see that a lot of times regulations is what's pushing the demand for solutions in water. So that would be an example. And where there's opportunities, I would say, in Mexico for that. And given the increased relationship these days between Canada and Mexico, right? With Prime Minister Carney going down earlier this year or this fall, and there's a large delegation, actually water mission that's happening, that the TCS is leading in Mexico early next year. That is also, I expect there'll be water companies as part of that delegation. Right, so we are seeing that demand in Chile. We have our mining clients, and water scarcity is a big issue there. So we do get requests around that. Our clients are mostly mining clients, so we do get requests on like tailings management and water reuse and things like that. So I would say, depending on the region, the kind of request may vary, but yeah, we're definitely getting a lot of requests around that.
This is interesting and really encouraging, actually, to hear that from both of you with that sort of similar experience. And this is the awesome part of having three people on this call, is that, Michelle, you have a very water specific focus, and you have gone out into the world with a water related filter on. Is this interest in Canada as a water technology resource significant, or how does Canada add up in your perspective as a destination for water technology scouting and new opportunity scouting? Is it small potatoes still? And don't worry, I mean, you won't offend anyone. We don't own the industry. I'm genuinely curious, like, is Canada considered, an expert, reliable partner for water related solutions?
That's a great question. I think what I would say is, based on what I know about what we've developed here in Canada, we should be considered a big dog in the field. We can do a way better job of marketing that or publicizing that, right? So things like membranes that were developed by Xenon many years ago, purchased by GE, and I think they still have it now. But that's being used worldwide right now, and I'm not sure that that's common knowledge that it was developed right here, I think at Waterloo University or whatever.
Yep.
And some of the within Xylem themselves, our Pure Technologies team, that's also I would say an R&D spinoff, a university R&D spinoff, where we do inspections of water pipes, water and services, using acoustic technologies and all kinds of other funky things that I don't understand. But again, we are taking that technology globally. We do work in China and India and all over the US and Canada, of course, but they're everywhere. last week when I was at the NWWC with Nicola Crawhall, she's the executive director of Canadian Water Network. And she said that it was becoming one of their objectives to increase the Canadian profile in terms of water technology. And she asked about, what are some of the things that we can do? And we discussed this, is that we need to start making those links and helping people to understand that those trees were rooted right here in Canada. From the Xylem perspective, certainly that's one of the reasons the Innovation Labs has these multiple partnerships, not just with Canada, but with other countries, small and large, so that we can make sure that we are sourcing the best technologies. That's why I'm glad we have that relationship, this relationship here with Foresight, that we can do that. But certainly, I think the current situation, maybe not so much is known. I know that we're out there having that impact. We just need to be more intentional in making others aware of that.
It's funny because I know we've, again, we tend to focus on technology and refinement of technology, but we've said it in other seminars, like communications.
Yeah.
Promotion, the core talents that companies need to foster in order to build, start making noise out in the world.
Yes.
It's still incredibly relevant. You could have the best technology, everybody knows it. If nobody is actually aware of how to get it, or that you're producing it, or where it came from, or what your expertise is, communications, it's so crazy. It always comes back to that. Anyway, I really appreciate that.
Suffer from the Canadian politeness.
Do you think so? I think that's probably true. Actually, Lauren, while you're listening to these comments, we made reference to an event. Maybe you could describe, like, WaterTech is a great micro example of maybe Canada's best foot forward in terms of promotional opportunity on a big stage. Could you describe, I mean, you don't have to claim responsibility for what happened or didn't happen, but because of your presence there, could you describe, like, does Canada just have a tiny pavilion and we went to a few things? What did we look like at WaterTech, and what would you like to see at WaterTech?
That's a great question. Yeah. WaterTech is one of the world's, or at least North America's, largest water show. And so it's a really great opportunity for Canadian companies to gain some exposure. As the TCS programming was that we had a pavilion. We partnered with the government of Alberta to purchase a space, and there we hosted over 200 B2Bs.
200.
Yeah, for Canadian companies. And so I kind of work with my clients, and my colleagues across Canada do the same, to kind of figure out who's going to WaterTech and try to connect you with these opportunities. And then my colleagues from abroad, so we had trade commissioners from 13 different Latin American 13 different markets, 10 of them in Latin America and Mexico, and a few from the United States. And all of them were working to recruit buyers to come to Canada and be that other side of the B2B program. And so so we connected Canadian companies with these Latin American opportunities and US opportunities to have some really good conversations at the Canada Pavilion. Tons of people stopped by to figure out what was happening here, how they could get more of Canada. And so that was always really great to see. And then when I was there, I was visiting, the different Canadian booths as well, to figure out how everyone was doing at the show and see what else I could help support with. And then in addition to having our presence through a booth, we hosted a panel discussion on that featured a handful of Canadian CEOs to discuss how their learnings, how they brought innovation to the water sector, essentially, from experience in different sectors, and that that panel discussion was full. Like the room or the space
Wow.
allotted to it was full. And so it really told us that like there is interest in what Canada has to say. And that was really, really great to see. And so we worked closely with EDC on their programming as well. Thuraya and I were on many a planning call in the months leading up to WaterTech. And so we, you know, like I worked with EDC to kind of help suggest some of my clients that were going to be in Chicago for EDC to include in their programming as well. And so coming out of that, it's been a lot of follow-ups to see how those conversations went. And there were some real concrete opportunities that we're looking to continue to build on. Michelle, do you have a
Awesome.
question for
Yeah,
me?
Michelle.
Where is that?
Yeah, I raised my hand because this year, I mean, WaterTech is something that's a definite have to do, you know, in my field of work. And this is the first year, and I want to say maybe 20 years that I did not attend WaterTech. The primary reason being because of the recent trade issues, a lot of utilities in Canada have actually restricted their staff from going to the US for conferences. There's good and bad there, because what ends up happening is we become isolated and we don't get to see what's going on outside, and we don't, you know, I get the point. We're putting our elbows up, we're protecting our interests, and that makes sense. But it like I said, it can be isolating. One of the things in the discussions with Nicola, she's with the Canadian Water Network, and then some of you might know Robert Haller from, he's the executive director for the Canadian Water and Wastewater Association, is really being able to support those national organizations across Canada. They're not very popular right now, I would say. Robert made the mention that because of the trade issues and folks not being able to travel to the US, this was his largest conference in many years because people use their conference budget to come to his. It's the only national conference that we have in Canada. Blue Cities might be there, but it's also, Blue Cities has a little bit different focus, nothing necessarily on the water or technology side specifically. So, yeah, I think we need to do a lot more to support a national voice, you know, enable them, require them to make more noise for us in general. But definitely to not, you know, this was the first time it became so blatantly obvious to me that really for us to make those linkages, we're requiring on outside, we're depending on outside organizations. So going to ACE and going to WaterTech every year was the requirement, but that's because that's what was there. But we should really have something across Canada that we can rely on to ensure that we stay connected in the work that we're doing. We're also learning about new things. Others can come from other places in the world and come to our conference and speak to us as well. We don't always have to go everywhere.
A
So
Canadian Polytech kind of event.
yeah. So I think you know, that really became quite evident to me this year that we really need to help facilitate that with the organizations that we have right now.
Well, that's great. And, you know, actually, if I'm going to keep with this theme, if nobody minds that, you know, Thuraya, if I'm going to ask you, we're talking about, you know, the WaterTech event, we're talking about events, and, you know, it's a must attend type comments were coming up and so on. But in your opinion, is there sort of a high impact, low cost market entry strategy or international pathway or approach you might recommend for startups? I mean, is it a combination of events and perhaps, you know, participating in an accelerator online with some European organization? Or have you seen pathways that are realistic for small to medium-sized ventures in order to spread the word in lieu of or in absence of, you know, a national supporting launching you know, main stage event like we've just mentioned? Where would you suggest, or what pathway would you propose in simple terms for a startup to start gathering international exposure?
Yeah, that's a great question. I just want to echo the Michelle's comments and Lauren's comments about communication and like the
Right.
branding of Canada.
Mhm.
We did participate in WaterTech as well. We had one buyer come from Southwest Water, which is a UK utility, but it took a lot of convincing, and the program was all Canadian companies at WaterTech that we did, but it took a lot of convincing to get them, and really leveraging kind of our financial relationship to get them to come. But once he came, we set up, it was a very tailored program. And his comments afterwards were like, we need to be here every year. Like, we need to, like, he really saw the value of the Canadian technologies that he was exposed to. And we're hoping, those convert. But yeah, but we do need to kind of do a better job, I think, of bragging about ourselves, right? So I would say, to your question, Evan, about market entry strategies, I would say the first recommendation I would make, and maybe I'm biased, but it's to connect with your trade partners, right? With the TCS, with EDC, right? Where in market, if you're interested in it, in exporting, we're in the market. We have a pulse on kind of what's going on, and we're here to really support you. And so, by us knowing who you are and developing that relationship, then we can keep you top of mind, right? When there's a trade mission that's happening that we think you would benefit with, or when there's a buyer coming into town, or where we also, so maybe I'll talk a little bit how we engage with our clients from
Please.
EDC. So we receive ad hoc requests about specific things or needs that they have, but then we also do events, right? So we either bring them to Canada. So we had, Alpec Petrochemical Company that came last month. So where they come to Canada, and we'll try to, based on their needs, reach out to Canadian companies there that might be able to address those needs, and do like a week of B2B programming, right? Or we go into market. So we take a delegation of Canadian clean tech companies with us. So right now we actually have a delegation in the UK right now of water companies in the UK meeting with our water utility clients. And we have a delegation that's down in Brazil this week. It just happens. We don't actually have them weekly, but just this week it's a busy week. But they're down in Brazil meeting with forestry clients. And they go to the market and connect with our international buyers there, right? And
Is there like a calendar resource, or is it strictly, one by one relationships? Like, how would someone keep track of they
yeah,
just
so yeah, again, I get, yeah. So we don't have a calendar that comes out on a yearly. It does depend year by year based on like the interest of our buyers. A lot of it is
Mhm.
driven. We do work with a select number of buyers. And so, but there are events that we're always at, right? So CIM and water and mining, that's an event that we go to every year, in a very, water focused event. That
Mhm.
would be a good example that's always on the calendar. And we bring and buy our buyers are very interested in that event, and they do come. And we do a program around that. But really it's kind of connecting with us. So reach out. Happy
Yeah.
to see if you're fit for our program or you're fit for our buyers, and then we stay in touch, right? We connect, we learn what you're interested in, the markets you're interested in. When there's opportunities, we do reach out. um, and other strategies, I would say, like you mentioned, I would say a lot of our clients have their own kind of innovation programs.
Mhm.
So I know in our mining clients, they have a lot of them have their own innovation programs online. So you submit your technology, and they would assess it and reach out. So that's one kind of low cost way of getting your name out there and in front of buyers. Um, a lo- One thing we see with our water utilities, I would say in the UK, it's honestly challenging. I find to get Canadian companies into them, but where we have had requests is on more on the innovation side,
Mm.
because a lot of these, they're kind of slow to adopt, very highly regulated. But on the innovation side, sometimes they work with their regulator where they run these innovation challenges, and they get some funding so that they're able to trial and pilot things, right? That they might not traditionally have funding or space for. So there are opportunities out there um, to kind of engage with buyers. But I think ultimately what's really important is once you've determined your target market is to find the right partners on the ground, right? Like
Yeah.
having the right local partnerships is super important. Our client, like buyers ask about that all the time, right? Do you have someone in Chile? Like what's your after service look like? Do they speak our language? Can they communicate? Are we going to be able to reach? So that's super important. And that can really help companies navigate the market, right?
Could I just on that topic, we've raised this before. Maybe I doubt that you've been in other calls, but this is a real sticking point for us that, to perform in a new community, a new environment with new partners and stakeholders, the loosely used joint venture collaborative project approach is super critical, right? Does EDC or the TCS, is that part of your mission support? Is not strictly buyer engagement, but maybe ferreting out willing joint ventures that are low risk? Like, do you create introductions in that respect?
Lauren, do you want to take that from the TCS?
Yeah, Lauren,
Sure.
because
Yes.
it's such a critical, it's absolutely critical. You can go down
I agree.
and pitch your heart out, but if you can't support your delivery, you're out of luck, right?
Oh, exactly. Yeah, you need to, we're here to help you kind of support that like learning journey. We expect Canadian companies to have done their homework before they really get interested in a market and start to talk to us. But that's exactly what we're here to help with, is that market intelligence of like how to get in there, some warm introductions when we can. And then we have some programs that help support those market entry strategies as well. And so we kind of want to build on what Thoraya was saying and some comments in the chat about to kind of highlight a few different things that we have going on. But in terms of building partnerships explicitly, one of our main funding programs is called Can Export. We offer that in partnership with NRC IRAP. Shout out to Cliff. And one of the key ones that is available to startups, especially, is called Can Export Innovation, and it provides up to $75,000 in funding to establish R&D partnerships for the purpose of co-developing, validating, or adapting a technology. And that's really a great way to kind of explore that market and work towards piloting your technology or adapting or validating it to a particular client or partner need. The funding that we offer covers up to 75% of costs that gets you to signing an R&D agreement. And so generally it's your tech A with partner tech B will create an adapted or commercialized technology C. And that one, why I highlight it for startups is that there isn't like any minimum revenue requirements or anything like that. That's something that is really available for early stage companies to start to explore. Its sister program is called Can Export Innovation. For that, you need to have a minimum of $100,000 in revenue, but that is explicitly designed for travel, for example, to new markets, to support your participation in events, to explore those markets a little bit further and kind of seek some buyers and develop those relationships. I see Thomas smiling. I think he might have some familiarity with some of these. I don't know.
Yeah.
The other program that I wanted to highlight that kind of builds on what we were talking about WaterTech is that we also have something called Canadian Technology Accelerators, or CTAs. It's like our own in-house accelerator program in a way. And those provide in-depth support for qualified firms seeking funding, partnerships, and business development services in select global business hubs. That's kind of like the technical term of it, but really it's like a boot camp of sorts in that market to help you refine your pitch, meet potential investors, meet potential customers or clients. And we often design those in a hybrid manner. So there's like a few weeks of virtual components so that you really get to know that market and prepare for it. And then there's an in-person element in that market, often anchored around a big event. And so I wanted to highlight that in particular for next year. Still waiting for the budget to pass, the federal budget. So figuring out our planning for next year still, of course, we'll see what happens next week. But generally speaking, there will be a Canadian presence at EFAT Munich, another huge water show that should be on everyone's radar. And we're hoping to plan a CTA in the lead up to that one as well. And so that when you get to Munich, there should be hopefully some curated pitch opportunities in addition to our B2B programming and like exposure support for you at such a major show. And similarly,
can you the name again? CTA. It's
this is the Canadian Technology Accelerators.
Right. And
all
the
this
links
is,
I'm guessing we'll share through Nina in the future and so on, because
exactly.
these are great. All these
Right.
resources.
It's all on tradecommissioner.gc.ca. Feel free to poke around or send me an email and I can send it that way as well. And so I also just wanted to add that there's Singapore International Water Week coming up in June as well. So EFAT Munich is in May, and then in June going to the Indo-Pacific. And so participating in the CTA or generally just in our B2B programs at these major shows is a great way of testing the waters, making some connections, and seeing if it's a good fit for you, and developing some of those partnerships to establish your presence on the ground. Yeah, those are the main.
This is great. Lauren, you just touched on like Indo-Pacific. Soraya mentioned Indo-Pacific in her introduction. Michelle, do you want to tell us where you feel markets are most promising at the moment? Not necessarily even, Canadian specific experience, but to say like there are some markets that really, Australia is having a peak water related challenges, buyers, education, jobs. You see a lot of activity on the waterfront in Australia. What markets are you feeling are promising, and in your company's reflection, big investments are heading in that direction? Could you shed light on that?
Yeah, I think for me personally, it's a little bit more difficult to speak in markets because I'm not working from a global perspective in that way. But I can speak in terms of the use cases, the needs. So areas where we're looking at things like PFAS. I see there's someone on here that does that. That's a big topic in the US now. And that tends to kind of infiltrate out. I think other areas have already, like in the UK, or sorry, in Europe, they've already start to have some emphasis on that. So being able to highlight where the needs are is also, and what the need is that you're providing and who needs it where is also very important, right? Areas where there is an opportunity to provide water where water is more a scarcity, not necessarily just the water quality, but water in general. Yeah, so just going back to the point is being able to identify that market in association with what you're also bringing into that market. One of the things that we do, like I mentioned with the innovation labs, is we tend to develop very close partnerships with many of our clients. Those that tend to be more, innovative and forward thinking tend to stay very close to us because not just because of the products and services that we supply, but because of the access that we grant them to be able to get at problems that they need to solve. So we can help to direct to solutions. And part of what we do with the Innovation Lab is when every year a cohort is defined, and that's really, we get interests or we reach out and gather information on those startups. And then we look out around the organization globally to say, here are the cohorts, here are the types of solutions. What are your thoughts on that? And then based on the organization itself, we select the cohorts. And then what we do with the cohorts is a couple of things. The first is there's a call out for champions. So what you get is across the organization, either subject matter experts or folks that are actually dealing with the problem that you are here to solve, we reach out and ask them to be part of the program. And what that champion does is meet with the venture on a weekly, bi-weekly basis. You set up whatever cadence works for you. And we talk in a very practical way around your marketing, your value proposition. It could come down to how your solution, if it's a physical thing, operations and maintenance, like we're really bringing in what we hear from our clients to you so that you build that into your solution right away. So you're getting voice of customer from the client, because sometimes based on the cohort, we have an actual project on the go right now where we can extract immediate value from the partnership. Or like I said, we have longstanding relationships, so we can reach out to some of those clients and say, here's somebody that we'd like to test out something. Is that something you can help us with? So you get actual on the ground interaction experience with getting that, getting your solution, whether it be proof of concept or just building a resume of proven value. Yeah, you get the voice of customer, both internally and externally. And then Xylem, we hold a number of sort of workshops where you're interacting with some of our executives. Perhaps it might be our product management people or our marketing people, just different areas, strategy, that give courses on sort of how we do business and what we see as being useful in evaluating. So it goes back to the point, I believe it was, I can't remember if it was Lauren or Thoraya that had mentioned it, about building that partnership network. And of course, Xylem being a global company, the innovation labs also gives that reach. So we've had companies that have come in through India, China, other places, that we've been able to help connect them to other parts of the world, and vice versa, because we can work on projects pretty much anywhere. So I think the point I would make, sorry, I'm not globally versed on who's doing what exactly, but really being able to identify that, maybe by working with EDC and Lauren's organization, by understanding where those needs are and then helping to build the partnerships to actually get there.
This is I don't like to talk about my own problems in these calls, but one of my major problems is that Nina, we need to have 3 separate events that have everything, because I want to dig into the Xylem ecosystem. I want to learn so much more about the EDC process. I want to get everybody signed up to run around with the TCS and understand the calendar. I could talk.
We could do this for days.
It's brutal. But this is really helpful, but the tip of the iceberg. Nina, I have to turn it over to you, but hopefully there will be ways to keep everybody engaged, because there's so much to explore. So thank you from my part. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you.
thank you so much also from my side. And I think there were a lot of valuable resources shared. So for the speakers, if there's anything you would like to share with the audience, maybe looking to 2026, please let us know. We're happy to share that. And maybe for the speakers and the audience, we have a Slack channel. It's called Community of Innovation. And there I can always share information that you sent me. Lauren recently sent me the information on that trade mission going to Mexico. I shared that in there. So that's a great way for you as speakers to communicate with our network, and for you, the innovators, it's a great way to tap into resources. So please feel free to send it my way. I can send either an email to all participants or put it in our Slack channel. So maybe that's just as a last note. So Michelle, Lauren, Thoraya, Evan, thank you so much for today's conversation. Really appreciate it. And to all the audience, thank you so much for joining. The next industry matchmaking session will be in January. So keep an eye on your inbox, and I'll send some notes and recordings from the past sessions in the next couple of days. So thank you so much.